And yeah, you can use it downtown.
As a parent, I just want to add something to that. I don't know, you can decide as a family. We told our kids they take out a small loan, even if they have scholarships for whatever, academic or athletic. You can work that out. But our kids had to buy their own books, and so that they would become very resourceful in maybe finding books on Amazon used or bookstore, finding ways to get their books cheaper. There was that, and then they also were responsible for any of their spending money for food, extra food that didn't involve our parent, responsibilities, getting the dorm, I guess the what do you call it? The meal plan, thank you. So they either starved or they became broke, or it really was, we would certainly be there to help them, but you have to give them a little bit of responsibility to figure out how to, spend their money wisely, and maybe some of them even have a job to help with that. So that's also something you guys might want to talk about.
Yeah, Mrs. Dorr mentioned talking about the textbooks.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best way to get textbooks now? The cheapest way, the most efficient way?
Find them online.
Where?
Download PDFs. There are a lot of great sites you can look up. Do a little research. They'll tell you you need this specific edition. You're not reading out of the textbook in the class, word for word. It's all the same material. Some of the new editions, the difference in content is 15%. It's just so that they can sell more textbooks. What I'm saying is that if you don't want to spend money on textbooks, you can basically always find textbooks online to download. And that's what I did my first semester. It's also just nice to have it as a PDF, because you can just carry around your iPad and use it that way.
Anybody else, any other textbook advice?
Yeah, so I don't think I paid for any. I think I just use this website called the Gen. I don't know the exact website name, but it's LIBGDM, the Gen, and it just pops up. You just search your textbook and you have to download it. I don't know if it's safe, but it's fine. If you can just get your textbook. Also ask upperclassmen. That's always one of the best resources I always had is just my upperclassmen who have been through the process at my college and know how to get textbooks or just can give you any advice. So
I want to add one more thing. Don't be afraid to ask. That's a great point, Caleb. Other kids who are in your program who have maybe a year ahead of you, just don't be afraid to actually go up and physically talk to someone. I think it's really hard, especially everyone's on their device, everyone's on their phone, and my kids, the biggest thing that they struggle with, even going back to Peter years ago at Dayton, no one comes out of the classroom chatting hey, they are on their phones, and we are all doing that, right? It's just really frustrating to hear your kids say, I didn't meet anyone in my class. What? You need to talk to each other. So as a parent, it just kind of broke my heart when I would hear that. So we should all look up and look at each other and talk.
Where would you guys turn if you were having a hard time in school, either socially, academically, if you found yourself in a bind, where would you turn to on campus, or who would you turn to? Mental health-wise, whatever.
So I can speak to my first semester. I had a really bad time mental health-wise. I was always a very independent kid, so it was just when I made that transition, I didn't have the support networks to reach out. Didn't rely on my parents enough. So I can definitely say, it's really important that you have a few people who you can reach out to, and just be completely honest about how you're doing. There's nothing wrong with saying that you're having a bad time. It happens. You can't control it. So I found that just being honest about that, really talking to a few people that you trust, really makes a big difference.
So it really does. Anybody else?
Yeah, for me, it was just my closest friends, because I feel like just their conversations with them would be better than my parents, because like they know like they're college students too, so they would have some sort of idea of what I would be going through, and some of the conversations would more be college specific, something that they would be able to handle. So just like being able to say that, just like instead of holding it in, just saying it is really helpful. It really, you feel a ton better, like having that conversation with someone and like hearing somebody else's perspective, or just to get it off your chest. It really does feel good. So definitely have the conversation. If you feel that you need to tell somebody something, tell somebody.
So we had one of our kids, my oldest, he would text me something very random, like, have you seen my yellow shirt? And I'm like, why would I know what that is? But it was always his way of trying to connect with me to start a conversation. And so then I would check in, oh, well, what else is going on? And it was usually something else. So as a parent, just like pay attention to those little moments where your son or daughter is reaching out to you. Sometimes it takes like a few minutes into a conversation to figure out what's going on, but just, keep persisting and trying to find out what's going on, because they're trying to connect.
Was anybody here homesick? Yeah?
Yeah, I think everybody gets homesick at least some point during their college experience. Like if anybody tells you, college was the easiest thing ever, they're just lying. Like, there's times where you miss your friends, or maybe you got into an argument with someone in college, or maybe you got a bad grade, or anything like that, and you're like, I just wish I could be back in McQuaid. Like seriously, there are times where you feel homesick, and I think some things that help with that are talking to a friend from home and checking in or catching up with them and reaching out. And, everybody's going through the same experience that you are, and you have to be really honest with yourself and be open to talking to your friends and expressing how you feel. And obviously your parents will always be there to help you as well. So if you're ever feeling homesick, just reach out to them as well, because they're just a phone call away.
Yeah, I think being homesick is a pretty natural thing to do. I used to tell my kids, if you're not homesick, you'll be really mad at you. You should be homesick, because this doesn't sound like that. But I think it is pretty natural to be homesick. And I think every fall, a fall doesn't go by when I don't get a call from a student or two who's a week, 2 weeks into college and says, I really hate it here. My roommate situation is bad, or I just, your natural tendency when you're homesick is to come home. And then there's that fine line between, when you come home, if you run home every weekend, life is happening at your college and you're missing it. Then you go back, and guess what happens on Sunday night? Now you have to leave again, and all those emotions come up. So it's hard. I think it's hard as a parent when your kids are homesick. One of my sons transferred. He went to Binghamton and really didn't like it. And very early on, when he was this, conservative, young guy who he gets in a roommate situation. He's in this roommate. He was in a quad, and he was the only one in his squad that spoke English. So he wanted out. And I kept saying to him, look, guess what, Dan? Life isn't made of everyone that looks like you, talks like you. That's just not the way it works. And this is a good experience for you. But it's hard to balance those things when you watch your kid struggle because he's homesick. But I think it's something to pay attention to. And again, I think this is my opinion. I think oftentimes when you are homesick and you constantly come home, that feels good for a little bit. But then I think it just gets exacerbated when you go back and you've missed out, when these other people are now getting together and friendships are being formed and comfort levels are happening and you're not there. So that's just something I think to be mindful of also. Be mindful of the time. I told these guys I'd have them out of here by 7:30, 7:45. It's just about 7:30. Just a couple other topics to talk about. How about, let's just write down what is a must-have for your dorm room? What do you absolutely have to have in your dorm room? Go ahead, Richard.
Extra food, definitely pack or parents send little care package food, definitely. In the middle of the night or in between study sessions, whatever.
You guys eat a lot.
Yeah.
You got 400 on food.
I think, yeah, that's pretty much, I wasn't personally in my room that much, but yeah.
Air fresheners. It's really sticky. It gets really sticky.
I want to add that, on that note, James had 2 fans in the room, one blowing air into the room and one blowing air out. Those square fans, very needed.
Yeah, I agree. Fans are like 100% necessary, especially like right after summer when it's really hot and if your room doesn't have air conditioning, it sucks. But I use like a mattress topper, which is very comfortable. It made my bed feel like a little more like home. So that's helpful too.
Yeah, for definitely snacks. And especially when like you get back and it's like 11 or midnight and you're hungry, because that happens, and you gotta have snacks there. Also, we thought we really liked having desk lamps, so that like number one, if you have to work at night, instead of having the main lights on, you can have the desk lamp and point it down, so that at least it's better than having, like if one of your roommates wants to sleep, at least it's better than having the full light on when you have a desk lamp. And also it was kind of nice, just like we would get back, we would turn the main light on, and then we would turn my desk lamp on, and we'd face it up towards the ceiling, so it was like dimmed a little bit, so that nice for just settling down, and like before you go to sleep, just kind of sitting like that, that was nice.
You don't really get a lot of storage in your dorm, and you might be surprised to see how small it will actually be. So I had a chest, like, I don't know what you call it, but like it's just like a regular chest and it had like a lock on it. And I would put like a trunk. And I would put like heavy winter coats, heavy sweatshirts, things like that I couldn't really fit into my closet. Yeah, that was great source for storage.
Yeah, pack lighter than you think. I can remember bringing my older daughter to college and had about 14 carloads worth of clothes and stuff, and brought about 13 carloads back home, so I think that's good advice also. How about, let's go rapid fire with this one too. How about best graduation gift? Start the other one, Chris. We'll say food.
Yeah. Gift cards are really nice that you can get, that you can, like, it won't surprise you, it'll surprise you, or like, oh, like, this actually was pretty helpful. So, gift cards.
I'd probably say food. Hard to come by in State College.
Cash is definitely nice, but in like a more, I guess like one that had a big impact, I guess, I got a journal and I actually like started writing in it this semester, kind of just like what happened last night, or and writing down my memories, so maybe I'll never forget them someday, and that was a really cool gift that I still use today.
Yeah, I like gift cards. I've definitely found myself really hungry, and then like looking at my wallet, and I was like, oh, $25 gift card to Chipotle, like that'll give you one meal. So I was like that. I hate to say it because like I love gifts, but really like cash is king. I hate to say it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd say same thing, cash is king, or like other than that, like, I know like an iPad or something you can like write notes on. I felt that like with McQuaid, I got really used to like using Notability. So I kind of like to continue that through college.
Patty, how about one last word, one word of advice for parents? We're getting ready to send their boys off to school in a few short months.
Oh boy. I guess it goes back to communication, just letting your kid know that whatever they decide, going forward is really on them, and you're there to support them. It's okay if they even change schools, if transferred, it's fine. That's really important. There's so much pressure to like make a decision, especially, it's a little hard with traveling. We weren't able to do that as much the last few years. So it's okay, Sometimes you don't necessarily know until you're there, and it's okay. So if think that's really important. No one's really paying attention. Like, I'm not saying, oh, I know where that kid started and where he's finishing. No one's really paying that much attention. We are excited for them and we hear about it, but just know that it's a process and they have to go through it themselves and just be there for them.
Before I ask the guys to give their last word, let me give you my last unasked for parent advice. I never wanted my kids to go off to college without having the conversations with them that I wanted to have with them. Sometimes they're hard, sometimes they're not hard, but I don't think you want to send your kid off with some things that are unsaid. I wanted to know that they, whether I was right or wrong, or whether my advice was good or bad, I wanted to be sure that they heard what was on my head, what my fears were for them, what I wanted that experience to be like for them. I felt like I wanted to tell them every potential trap that's out there, or danger that's out there, which obviously you can't do. But I think I just, the fears that are on your mind, or the things you want to tell them. Because I think they want to hear that. These guys probably won't clamor to come up to you and say, hey, mom or dad, tell me, give me all your wisdom. But I do think it's a really good idea that the things that you want to tell them, whether you love them like crazy, you're going to miss them like crazy, you can't wait till they get home, what you're afraid of, I think those things are really, really healthy things for you to say and for them to hear. All right, let's wrap this up this way. How about, again, let's go down the line, just one quick word of advice that you give to a senior who's heading off to college in a month or a couple months.
I would say really take advantage of the first semester. Be open to talking to literally anyone. Really just start a conversation. You never know where it will go, or the types of interests you guys might have in common. I felt that obviously, like you said earlier, everyone's in the same position. Everyone's looking for friends, and sure, that may not be a friend that you continue to be with in the future, but it's better than not talking to anyone, just being there.
Don't underestimate debt. Do not underestimate debt. Think hard about if you're really willing to go into some amount of debt for what kind of education. Because when you graduate, if you have $100,000 in debt, that's kind of crazy, in my opinion. So just keep that in mind, Leave options open for yourself.
I think just like he said, keeping every option open, but also not stressing about what you're going to do necessarily in 10 years. Really just take advantage of everything that your college has to offer, because it truly is has so much to do all the time, and you can always find yourself doing anything. So really take advantage of everything that it has, because it goes by really quick. I can't believe that my first year is already over, and it's crazy to believe that I've only got 3 years left at Yale, and I'm just really trying to prioritize going to lunch with friends, or really just meeting all the different types of people that this college brings to you, and taking advantage of that, and just enjoy.
My word of advice is, do not ever feel that you have to be pressured to say yes, or you have to do something in a certain situation. If you choose to drink, know your limit. I think that is so important. I see so many people, even myself, who've made mistakes and whatnot. Just know your limit, and you do not have to do something if you don't want to.
I would say two things. Number one is patience. The first few days are going to be the worst. In orientation, you might be homesick, you don't know anybody. Those days are going to be the worst. But then slowly, once classes start, everything's going to fall into place. Also, pay attention to the small interactions. It could just be with anyone, somebody you run into in the bathroom, somebody you talk to after class. It's really cool when these small interactions, then maybe you'll see them at the dining hall and you can sit with them, and then maybe they'll just become great friendships that just can come from some random little interactions. Those are the coolest things for me, so pay attention to those.
Good stuff. Anything we didn't cover, or that I don't want you to leave kind of unfulfilled here? Any topics or questions that you have of these guys? Go ahead.
Just your thoughts, gentlemen, your experience of you've been in a single-sex study environment, classroom environment. Now you're going into a co-ed class environment. Any suggestions, experience you had now being in a co-ed learning environment?
So I'll expand on that and besides just learning environment, just environment. I had a real culture shock, to be honest. I mean, like there are a disproportionate number of white males who go to this school. Like that's just a fact. And that's not a makeup of whatever university you go to. It doesn't matter if it's an affluent university. You're gonna have people that come in with all sorts of different views, and all of them are views. Like, everyone comes from a different background. Be ready to be wrong. You're gonna be wrong, you're gonna mess up, just own it. Yeah, and then, you know, about classroom, I don't know, like, McQuaid really stresses the idea of maybe I'm saying this wrong, but like removing, yeah, maybe I won't say that. It's not really that big of a deal. They're like, when it comes down to it, everyone is just a person. Like, just treat everyone with respect. Like, women learn too. Yeah, just really like, I would say just be ready to be wrong. Just be ready to be wrong because you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna go with a lot of ideas about what it's gonna look like, and it won't. And that's okay.
I do have one thing. When my son was at school, he was in a very serious accident. He was hit by a motor vehicle. And you have to realize that once your boys are 18, they will not call you. We were not called by the hospital until the day after. And they are adults, so they are allowed their privacy. So that's something that you have to understand. And boys, you have to understand that also is that you need to make sure that what we told my son Casey was to make sure in your phone it said ICE mom, in case of emergency mom. And then that's how they finally called us. They went through his phone and saw that, and they called us in the wee hours of the morning. So please be aware of that when you're 18, you're an adult, and they don't have to tell you as a parent anything.
Nor do you have access to your kids' grades.
Anything, you have access to nothing anymore.
Just the bill.
You just get the pay.
I wanted to add, if I can, just one tiny little thing about the health insurance. So you'll see, you'll get your bill and it'll be in the portal, the parent portal, which you should actually access and look into. And your child will also have his access into his same portal. Anyway, you will be probably charged a health insurance fee. It could be like $1,200. But if you have your own health insurance, you don't necessarily need that, but you have to opt out in some schools. It's like something, just be aware when you see that. It doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be there. You have to like opt out, like check a little thing on a box, and then that will be removed from your bill. Just look and see things like that, because you have to pay attention to all that stuff.
Anyone else? Yeah.
So Mrs. Dorr touched on it, and it's something that I've thought a little bit about. But what was your guys' experience, like, if you worked or took part in your work-study program?
Anybody work?
So I did not have any of my kids do work study because, like I said, they were in athletics and they have zero time to do the job. Although James, his freshman year here at Purdue, started working at doing Grubhub or whatever. I guess it's Grubhub. So he had to have a car for family reasons. He had to get him a car. And he worked a little bit, and it was great. You could plug into that. It's a great little job because you can plug in and work a couple hours here and there. And But work study is something different. That's when you're given like a work study job on campus. And I know when I was at college, I had that. And so you have to apply for it. It's like financial, maybe apply for it and get put into that program. But that's also great, and it can also lead into some internships and things like that on campus. And it's always good. The more, like, you know, a busy person gets a lot done, right? That's what I always think.
Let me address work study programs for a second. So as part of your financial aid package, you may have been awarded a work study program where essentially you have a job on campus and you're making X number of dollars per week. And that's basically a check that's going directly to you. It's not coming off your tuition or your expenses. It's basically like it's like kicking around money, basically. One word of advice I would give you is this: like usually, if you're granted a work study on campus, at some point in the summer, they'll post the work study jobs, and you want to be quick to the game to do that, because the work study jobs range from taking tickets at a hockey game to checking IDs in the weight room to washing dishes to whatever. So if you want the prime work study jobs, pay attention to when those come available. Anybody else have a work study job?
Yeah, I had a work study job. So I was a desk assistant, which was basically I was just making sure people checked into their dorms. You had to physically use an ID to check in. It was a great job. It was probably for 10 hours a week in 5-hour shifts, and you could just kind of do homework while it was going on. It wasn't really intensive. So I really enjoyed it. I did get it as part of my financial aid package. I wrote to my school and I said I need more financial aid. And so they gave me the work study and some more money.
Yeah, I forgot, Joe did have a short stint in the cafeteria. I think he had a few hours a week, and I think it lasted like a year. It really was hard to plug into that. But again, if you wait too long, you're working in the cafeteria.
All right, I'm going to get these guys out of here because they've been great. One of the things that, and I love my job, and one of the things that I think is most reassuring is when we see guys like this who are kind of the end product, they've gone off, they've come back to school, and this is a pretty good representation of our little school here and our community. And I think if your kids end up in their first year and they come home like this, you're pretty fortunate. So I just wanted to thank them for coming. They're really good kids. Enjoy these, these last few months here. They're precious times. They're important. Enjoy them. I know they're a little bit stressful, but they're really important to enjoy them. So again, thanks for coming tonight. And, I'll be happy to stick around. I'm sure these guys will too. If they have any last questions. Thank you.
I'd just like to add really quick that if anyone else has anything, keep saying it's fine. It's short. It's just if you have any questions or anything, I'm glad to give you my number. I'm sure everyone else feels the same on this panel. Happy to answer any more questions, really about anything. So thank you all.